Hi, it's Miss Andrea, and let's talk about college prep courses for your homeschooler. And today we're going to start with 8th grade math. Yes, college prep, 8th grade. That's when we need to start. If you remember the chart I made, and you see how easy this is, you can do it by hand on a much bigger piece of paper, or you can make a simple spreadsheet, and I'll give you the image of the spreadsheet that I'm starting, because I basically made a spreadsheet and I'm going to walk you through all the possibilities for every single square of that spreadsheet. And today I'm going to walk you through two squares of what your options are for 8th grade math. Now, 8th grade math is your last chance to make sure your child has mastered all of those subjects before they get to algebra. And all of those subjects, and I've said them before, are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, decimals, percentages, and converting fractions, decimals, percentages. And then at this point, we're doing the number line and negative and positive numbers. If your child knows all of those things, then they're ready for pre-algebra. If your child is like most children, even in public school, your 8th grader might be ready for algebra. How do you know these things? You test them. The way I tested my kids was through teaching textbooks. Let's see if they still have the tests for teaching textbooks. Look at that. Placement text. You go to teachingtextbooks.com and they have placement tests from math 3 through pre-calculus. Quick, easy way to test what the child knows and decide, what math you're going to place them in for 8th grade. Now, I'm using the Teaching Textbooks website to pull a placement test for my child for 8th grade. I'm not necessarily using teaching textbooks as a curriculum. I don't dislike teaching textbooks as a curriculum. It is not a cheap curriculum, and in my experience, when we tried it, because we tried it for a couple of years in the middle school years, like 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe pre-algebra for the boy. They upgraded it in the middle, and you had to, you used it for one kid, you're saving it for the next kid. They upgraded it, and then you had to buy the upgrade. It's just not something I want to toy with. I wonder if they do it, if they deliver it online now, because that would be the difference for me. But from what I can tell, it's still a big old spiral book. Does it still come with discs? I understand it's been a minute since we homeschooled. Complete program, 12-month subscription. Oh, okay. It's not as expensive as it used to be, and it comes with an online subscription. So that's much better. But the problem I had with it was that it's a really good program for children who struggle in math. It just breaks it down in a way that makes math intuitive. So that's awesome. It is not the program for a college prep student. It is not in depth enough. It didn't cover enough subject matter for us. So say you have a hesitant child who you want to become a college prep child. For 8th grade, I might use teaching textbooks, but then I would supplement it with Khan Academy, and I would have them do them concurrently. We do the teaching textbooks, then we go into Khan Academy, and we do the test. I just love the way Khan Academy tests and reinforces and brings back older subjects and takes you to a level of mastery. Speaking of Khan Academy, they have all the math that you need from kindergarten through college. And I'm just going to say this, I don't care what curriculum you use for math. I'm just telling you that in my experience, that teaching textbooks was great for a hesitant child and not great for a college prep child. Because when it came time to take the SAT for children I knew who used it, they were woefully unprepared. So if you're going to use teaching textbooks, unless you know something I don't know, you need to also be using Khan Academy for test prep. Look, I'm a Khan Academy nut. And it's very much a standalone. But and it gives you printouts. You can pull printouts of what you've accomplished. So it's really good, to print out what you've done each year and put that in a portfolio, because it's a really good demonstrator of, that your child has actually done the math, and, it teaches to mastery. So once your child has gone through it, they have an A in math. It is an A maker. Okay, so those are 2 curriculums you can use for math that I guess I trust them both, but like I said, one is just going to be super duper more stringent. But it's not really the curriculums I care about at this point. It's what they are learning. So your typical pre-algebra class takes your child into, we've mastered all those earlier subjects that you start in kindergarten these days. Any pre-algebra textbook, any pre-algebra workbook is kind of a guideline as to, what a child needs to know in pre-algebra. Chances are your child tests through pre-algebra, or your child, say for instance, you give your child the pre-algebra test and they know 80% of the subject matter. What I would do is see what's missing, get my checklist, see what's missing, and then, go straight to Khan Academy, for instance, and fill in those holes, get those done. That'll take you half a semester at most, because you're going to want to do some review, and then you're going to want to do those missing subjects. And then for that first square, in our spreadsheet, then you're going to write in 1/2 credit pre-algebra part B, because they've done pre-algebra, in 7th grade. If they've done the subject matter that encompasses pre-algebra in 7th grade, they're just finishing up and getting, those little holes filled. And then when that's done, then they can go right into algebra once again. Look, I'm not even going to play with a bunch of curriculums. I just recommend Khan Academy at this point. It's just so stringent. Um, you can also pick up a public school textbook. I mean, I know some people who say they don't want their kids to spend a lot of time online, but we're kind of in the technology age. But you could pick up a public school textbook from Amazon.com for very little money, and it tells you how to do the math, and then it has all the questions and worksheets in the end. And if you get a teacher's edition, get the teacher's edition. It costs nothing. It tells you how to explain it, and it has the answer key. That's great too. But I always follow up with Khan Academy. So you've made sure your child was ready for pre-algebra. Chances are they're learned most of pre-algebra before you get to 8th grade. You can finish that up in less than half a semester, and then you can go right into algebra, because guess what? We're homeschoolers, and we don't have to wait till next year. So that's cool. Once again, algebra, you can do it with Khan Academy. You can get a workbook. Oh, there's a program called ALEKS, ALEKS. It's another mastery program, and basically it keeps taking you back a couple of subjects and making sure you still remember. So where were we? So we have our spreadsheet. We filled in one of our math squares with, pre-algebra part B. That just says, they've already done most of pre-algebra. We're just finishing it off. And then you say algebra. You can do algebra A if they don't finish the whole algebra course, because remember they started late. Or you can do what I did with not my child, one of my children and someone else's child, is we just did algebra till we were done, finishing sometime in July. And so when you look at those two squares, in our chart, you have 8th grade math in our 8th grade column. You have pre-algebra part B, for example, and then the next column down says 8th grade math algebra. Okay, that might not be the case. Your kid might be a little bit behind in math, so you might just have, for 8th grade math, they might still be working through all those little subjects, getting ready for algebra. You might just have 8th grade math in one square for one full subject point and nothing in the other square. Or you might have 8th grade math part B, and then you might have pre-algebra part A in the other square. And basically what I'm trying to say is we don't have to do a subject per year, especially with math. Math is a tricky little devil. Sometimes math is just breakneck speed. Your kid might do algebra and trig in one year, geometry and trig in one year, because one just kind of flows into the other. Or they might take 2 whole years to do algebra, and that is not uncommon. Especially if they started younger, when they're maybe not as mature, because algebra requires some level of maturity. So like you could break algebra into, say, 8th grade, algebra part A, and that would last the whole year, and they would get a half credit at the end of the year, even though they spent 1 or 2 hours a day on it. And then 9th grade year, it might say algebra part B. Like, that's not unusual, because kids really get stuck on algebra, and instead of failing algebra, as what would happen in the public school. You slow it down. They're still finishing algebra by the end of the 9th grade, especially if you get them started in the 8th grade. And then what happens, I've noticed, when the kids take in 2 years to do Algebra 1, Algebra 2 takes a half a year or 3/4 of a year. Done. Because once you get that algebra, everything else clicks and flows. And then the same child who took 2 years in algebra took maybe 3/4 a year in algebra 2, and then the geometry and trig the next day and went to pre-calculus. So you still end up with 5 or 6 maths, or the kid is like, no more math, I want to die, I will never be a mathematician. And they're finished doing their math halfway through the 10th grade. So I'm going to recap one more time, and I'm going to give you examples on the spreadsheet of what your math boxes might look like. So until next time. How do I make it stop?